Welcome to episode 1, season 2 of the Key Hire Small Business Podcast. I'm your host, Corey Harlock. We finally settled on some new music. We thought we would start season 2 with a bang. Matt, great pick on the music. That is more my style, more rock and roll than classic. What did we have before? Like some cool jazz or something. Anyway, it was no good. This is much better. We are starting off the season with an amazing guest. We have Miss Catherine Brown with us today. And Catherine is a professional B2B salesperson. She's been doing that for years. But she also is super focused right now on putting together peer advisory networking groups. She does some sales training. She's here in the Houston area. So if you're in Houston and you want to kind of jump into a group and learn how to sell or learn how to connect, learn how to network, she can definitely help you with that. She also has one of these, a book, How Good Humans Sell. Full disclosure, have not read the book, but I saw a presentation on the book and it was super awesome. And there's some really good information in there. We are going to continue down the road of the small business owner's mindset and how we can shift that. Today, the topic, and I thought it would be a great start, is what is your selling culture? And are your beliefs getting in the way of growing your business? Are you your own worst enemy? Are you the reason your company's not growing through your sales channels? So without further ado, let's bring Catherine in.
Hey, hi, Corey.
Did I get it right? Was that good?
That was awesome. And also, I love your new music. I was kind of dancing backstage when I was in the green room. So good job. Good job to Matt.
Soft, jazzy stuff we used to have. It just isn't me, you know?
This feels like you. I see the guitars behind you in the.
Oh, that's right. That's right. Yeah. Cool. So we're going to get into how we can connect with you and all your good stuff in a bit. But the reason I thought was really a great idea to have you on was because you do a lot of work, not just how to sell, go out and sell. There are lots of those people out there, and you're really good at that. But, you know, in our conversations, we talked a lot around kind of mental hurdles and roadblocks that a lot of owners face. And oftentimes they're kind of, in many aspects of their business, they can be their own worst enemy. And, you know, you had some really interesting insight around that. So when we talk about, you know, what is your selling culture? Are your beliefs getting in the way? Kind of let us, what do you mean by that? What are we talking about?
Sure. So to get some definitions out there, Corey, when we're saying there's lots of people out there who teach you the mechanics of selling, we're talking about what you listen for and how you would qualify someone, or how you create an effective funnel in your conversations or your email marketing so that you attract people and then get them onto that first call with you. Those are some of the things that there's lots of wonderful people out there that we both know who can teach in those things. And I have learned a lot about those things over the years as well. What I don't hear people talk to business owners enough about, that I want to share today, is the role that a person's own beliefs play in the sales culture that you set, and the expectations you create of others, and what you end up basically creating as a self-fulfilling prophecy. I'll go on about that a little bit and share in the intro of my book, How Good Humans Sell. I share that I've done a lot of empirical research. I'm actually married to a social scientist, so he made sure that my study was not biased and that I asked questions in a really thoughtful way so that I could get empirical, statistically significant data. And what I set out to test and what I have shown is that even people who identify as full-time professional sellers deep down believe that sales is a dishonorable and kind of embarrassing profession.
Is that like the CC used car salesman kind of?
Exactly. And I know, Corey, that we hear that, and so people might think, no, not me, but I'm telling you, there's such a small percent of people.
Yes, me. I mean,
there's such a small percent of people who really actually deep down believe that sales is really helping someone, and that the definition of sales equals helping or equals care or equals genuine, sincere offer that you're free to take or not take, instead of coercion, manipulation, pitching, overly persuading. Those fundamental definitions set the groundwork for the kind of sales culture we build, the people we hire, and even what we expect of the people that we hire.
So I love that. That resonates with me because people always say to me, Corey, you must be great at sales. I'm like, I suck because I have a hard time getting over that hurdle myself. But when we think of an organization of 20, 30, 50 people, and you have this owner who's oftentimes the best salesperson, and then as they scale, it doesn't make sense for them to be doing sales. So we go out and we bring in a sales manager, or a director of sales, or a VP of sales, call it whatever you want. The owner has built the foundation and the culture around selling. Then you bring in a professional, right? And that owner may or may not be a professional salesperson.
Right.
You bring in someone
more times than not is not, right?
Yeah, they're just hustlers, right? They're just entrepreneurs that want to sell their stuff. And then they bring in a professional. So, we're talking about that. What is the selling culture, and are your beliefs getting in the way? So is that where you often see the conflict is between the way the owner does it?
Yes.
Then you kind of get a professional sales manager, leader of salespeople in there, and they do it differently.
Yes. And it's about the individual beliefs of every person on the team. So it starts all the way back to the startup days with how that person who is the founder believes about sales, what they believe about sales, and the story they make up. So let's say that they have an unwritten rule. They can't tell you where they learned it. They don't know why they learned it, but they believe that you should only have to ask a person twice for a meeting. And that if they don't respond after 2 times, that therefore means that equals, no response after 2 times equals not interested. Right. And so then let's say that somehow through referrals, through your strategic partnerships, through your associations, through your resellers, however you're growing your channels, let's say you do get to a point that then you bring someone in to help you who oversees it. When they start making recommendations about what to do, that founder is going to be in the way because their own view is in the way, because everyone has their own view, right? So they're going to be in the way, and they're going to say, wait, you're not going to tell them to do that, are you? Because whatever the founder believes is true, and then they go seek to confirm it's true. There's something called confirmation bias, right? We automatically, non-consciously, and automatically, we look to confirm what we think is true. So if I believe that after 2 times is all I should have to try someone, as an example, then if I somehow push myself to a third and they still don't reply, I'll say, see, I told you. Right. See, I told you. So that human desire to say, see, I told you is very, very, very strong, whatever it's about. It could be about anything. Right. And so it keeps us from being teachable. It keeps us from being open. And the part that I want your owners to hear is not to beat them up about sales, is to say, everybody has limiting beliefs about what's possible, and everyone has limiting beliefs and a distorted view of what selling. Look, I like this. I wish I'd come up with the phrase myself, but there's a wonderful book out there called Selling from the Heart. Larry Levine, Selling from the Heart, which is like, what a great expression, right? To sell from the heart. Like, not many people really deeply think that's true. And so because they don't, they put that on other people, and we all have to take responsibility for what we believe, because it's going to affect the outcomes.
Right. Now, is there a correlation? I'm making a leap here. Maybe you've experienced it or not, but owners, because they own the company, they are, well, I guess they can come from any angle, but you would think they are more apt to come from you need my product because it's the best. It's the right solution, right? But they also have that weight of being the owner of the company.
Yes.
So when they tell new out of college salesperson on their first sales call, sell like this, and they are not the owner of the company, is that where the disconnect is? And I guess is the question I'm trying to ask maybe is, based on the levels of engagement in the company, the person's experience selling, where they fit on that organization chart, should everyone be selling the same?
That's a good question. So when I did set out to do some research for the book, one of the things I was curious about was whether there were generational differences in perspectives about selling. I actually hoped that because Gen Z is younger, I hope that perhaps that used car stereotype and the things that my generation learned with plays. I mean, I remember being in middle school and we did a short act in drama class. We did a scene from Death of a Salesman, right? Arthur Miller's Death of a Salesman. So there are these stereotypes that are definitely very true among mid-age people. And I thought, oh, I hope that perhaps some of those impressions haven't seeped their way into a younger generation. That would be interesting to pull too. And unfortunately, that wasn't the case. I mean, everybody universally has some negative perspectives about sales. So that's the most important point I want your owners to hear, is that it's really common. And when we talk about setting a culture and what responsibility does the owner founder need to take to set a healthy sales culture, it's first of all just having open conversations about these things. If you're gonna bully people or ring a bell or bullpen or kind of try to coach people into their KPIs for certain objectives, but you never talk about where their hesitation might lie, and you don't listen carefully because you're actually one kind of coach, but not a better kind of coach, right? You're like a yelling athletic coach, but you're not like an executive coach. Yeah. If you do that, then you're going to miss the opportunity to develop your people to address whatever is overcomable. The thing about beliefs, Corey, that I love so much is that they can change. People can change their mind. They can be persuaded. They can change their view. They just have to be given a roadmap to do it, and they have to want to. And so anything that is a limitation and a challenge when it comes to the human potential part of it, most of it can be addressed if you're truthful about it and you're open about it.
Cool. That makes a lot of sense. So, we like to talk about mistakes that business owners make when they kind of try to do this. And I'm trying to see if there's a difference if a business owner is trying to start a sales team, could be hiring their second or third or fourth salesperson, or they have a group of people and they understand that they might be misguided, or they're ultimately not seeing the performance or delivery they want, right? To scale. Ultimately, they want to grow. We brought in what we believe are this great team of salespeople.
Yes.
And everyone's just, we're not getting where we want to go.
What are the reasons? What are the mistakes?
Let's talk about, we have a team that's underperforming.
Yes.
What are the mistakes then? And you've touched on a few of them, but what are the mistakes a business owner can make when we believe we have good people? We think we have the right people in the right seats. Yes, and we probably think that because we haven't put anything measurable in place to know otherwise.
Yes, and we don't know what we don't know, right? We've never done this before. We're learning. Yeah. So,
but we haven't given them what they need to really hit their stride. So what are the mistakes, the kind of common mistakes a business owner might make when they're trying to align? I guess if we want to get back to beliefs, what are those limiting beliefs, and what are the mistakes they make based on what they know and what they want to see from their team? Maybe that's the right way to approach it.
Sure. What if we take it by stage of business? So let's say startup, and then as I scale up.
Yeah.
So early, what happens is it takes a lot longer than any of us would like to figure out what is the sales message that's actually resonating with someone. And when I say that, I don't mean why is your software technically superior to another person's software. I mean, what are the deeper reasons someone's buying from you? What is the problem it's solving for them? What is the hope it gives them? What is the new path it gives them as a tool? So the first challenge is getting all of that sorted. And I have found in servicing dozens and dozens and dozens and dozens of companies over the years who are in these early stages, it always takes longer than you'd like. And the problem is you get a false positive, Corey, because what we all do when we start a business, myself included, is first we sell to people who already know, like, and trust us. So it's smart to start with your inner circle, but the problem is that isn't really helping you validate what a stranger who has no relationship stakes in this, really thinks of what you're selling. So it takes a while to sell out in those concentric circles, to keep practicing your messaging, to keep practicing your value proposition, to find out what's really resonating. So first, it takes longer than you'd like. Second, you still have an advantage because you're the owner. You still have an advantage. And so then you have to begin to document your processes and think about what that buyer's journey is going to look like for someone else to take someone through. So an early mistake is literally, forgetting the power that you have as the owner founder and the advantage that you have.
And
the second is,
you see that one a lot, right? You see that one a lot. Like, just do it like this. Why? This isn't hard, right?
Sure. Yeah. Sure. I was consulting, as an example to that point. I was consulting to a technical, it was an IT services company that I was talking to a few weeks ago, and they are so frustrated because they've had some underperforming salespeople, and they have just pulled in. They've just retracted, and the two principals, have pulled in and said, what, we're just going to do it. I mean, they're reducing their staff. They let some people go, and they've kind of gone backwards in saying, the way we're doing it must therefore be the best way because these other people haven't worked out. And there's so many things that an outsider can see looking in and say, the message isn't clear. Their performance expectations weren't clear. Their job description wasn't clear. I mean, I know you help people find the right people, so hopefully this is music to your ears, right? Yeah. It's like, when you say that word, what does it mean to you? Even fundamental definitions, were different. So there's lots of places to have those errors, and then we can then overreact if we're disappointed instead of learning from those mistakes and making those tweaks. So those early mistakes are understanding that you have a founder advantage, understanding it takes longer to put those things in place than we'd like, often in terms of messaging, clarity of value proposition, things like that. And then the other thing that I learned early in my career is that if you're talking about end to end, from someone initiating or taking the warm lead that comes up and working through a qualification process and negotiating and closing and even asking for a referral, that's a lot of stuff that has to be done. And sometimes that job should be split by multiple people. It depends on the company. It depends on the role. But again, your beliefs about what's required out of one individual come into play there. And that's where someone like you or like me or someone who's just not the founder might be able to say, what are you expecting to be true? What are you assuming is true that you're believing? Because perhaps that there should even be multiple roles.
So what if I'm a business owner and I'm listening to this and I'm thinking, man, that is like, those are my frustrations. What are some examples of those the belief system that a business owner would have? Because I think you and I both kind of work with business owners when they get to that point where in the Greener's model curve, it's called the crisis of management, right? But it's where the business kind of outgrows the skills, ability, capacity of the people in it. Yes. Not even on the people. They're good people doing the best they can, but they've run out of resources, right?
Yes.
And you have an owner now who is frustrated because these sales people aren't doing what they need to do, and I can't. We're not growing the way I want, or they're not making enough calls, or we hear this all the time, or all they do is go around and bring donuts to our existing clients. They're not pounding the phones like I want. What could a business owner look for in themselves that could trigger a conversation with a salesperson?
That's great. Well, the answer, what I thought you were going to ask me, which I'm going to answer, is, if that's okay. What I thought you were going to ask me is a little bit broader, like what should they do when they find themselves in that role? And it leads me to the topic.
That's a good place to start.
Yeah, a coaching culture. I mean, it's having a coaching culture. So the first question is, where are you as the owner? Where are you getting input? Where are you getting advice? And are you growing? And so sometimes they're frustrated because they thought it'd be a certain way, but we as owners get stuck. I mean, I just engaged with an executive coach. I mean, I'm not an executive coach, so I'm not saying this so people will hire me.
Right.
I believe there's an entire industry of people that their sole job is to get at the root of problems through the questions they ask. And it takes training to learn to be good at that, because asking powerful questions and listening very, very carefully is something actually that you have to be trained to do. It's not something a person just is born doing well. And so engaging in help with that is one of the first places to start, because on top of what we're saying, Corey, not just am I frustrated and feeling stagnant at this moment, but I mean, I just listened to another podcast this morning about the impact of AI on professional services businesses and the dizzying pace of change. And I was thinking, man, I mean, your job as a leader is to spend a fair bit of your time learning, because how in the world will you lead people if you are not also on a path of trying to grow? So being open to input, questioning your own views and mindset and beliefs, and then and constantly learning is also a part of what's required. And I think whenever someone says you should just X, we need to be like having a flashing yellow light that sounds like, is this reflecting a fixed mindset? Right? Is this reflecting that they're stuck? Even as a leader, that they're stuck?
Right.
To finish the thought on the stages, we talked about some of those challenges at early stages. What I would say that I see later too is that, let's say that you are able to cultivate a high performing culture with a handful of people. And one of the most common things that people do is they're trying to keep their great talent. That person has blown past their quota. They want more responsibility. They might want to be a partner in the firm. They might want equity. There's different things they might want for bringing in so much business to the company. And so one of the things that people will often do is they want to promote that high performing individual, and they want to put them over people in management. And that's another occasion that also requires testing your assumptions about what you believe is true, investing in people, and having a growth mindset about what the next iteration of your chapter of your business might need to look like. Because there's a lot of research that shows that most of the high performing individuals who move into management without a lot of training for that don't end up being successful, because it's not the same skill set.
That's the restaurant server scenario. My previous life was hospitality, and it's when you take your best server and make them a manager, then they quit about 2 months later because they hate it, because they love serving. They don't want to manage people. You know, they like what they did and they're really good at it. And sometimes it's okay just to be there. But
and again, but going back to beliefs, like I just personally took this assessment the other day. I have a friend that sells an assessment that she sells to companies. And so that I would better understand when to refer her, I took the assessment. And some of the things it said about me that, as an example, were very interesting. I was a high individual producer in 3 different corporate roles before I started my first company. And I was not a manager over people before I decided to strike out on my own. Right. And that entrepreneurial independence that was represented in my individual high performing and contribution right. to those corporations then, manifested itself in different stages in my life. But I know enough about myself now to say that I would have been exactly that wrong kind of person to move into management
in corporate structure.
In a corporate structure, because I even struggle about it as an entrepreneur. Like, I still like managing people. I think that part is difficult. And so have I gotten better at it? Sure, but it's not easy for me. And what this assessment said is, it was saying, if you're a manager managing Catherine, she needs a lot of freedom to get things done in the way that she sees it's not the way that she sees fit. It's not that I'm reluctant to be held with a quota or to be held accountable or anything like that. That's not true at all. It's just that when you know me, you know that giving me the principle and then saying, go figure it out and make it happen is the way to get it done, and not every jot and tittle about telling me the way it has to be done.
So as you're thinking this, I just keep having the same thought. Like, if you're going to build a sales team, I'll give 2 examples. Obviously, there's a million different ways to do it in the end. You can try to find similarly minded people and create a process and manage that process. Or you can you can hire a bunch of goal-oriented people, manage the result, and do not manage how they get to the number. Let them, like you, go do their thing. Cat box method, right? As long as they're pooping in the cat box, they're not getting in trouble, right? So they got wide lanes, but you're not. And as a business owner, that belief system has to be, I trust my business people, and if they hit their numbers, they're doing the right thing.
Yes.
As long as they're staying within the lines.
Yes. One of the things I appreciate, Corey, is that you'll see a lot of executive MBA programs. I've seen the National Business Development Association do this. You're starting to see more and more people offering training on things that they'll call programs like Leader as Coach, right? Or getting the best out of people, things like that. What they're all leaning toward now, which thank God, because I think it's just so important for the development of the people in your organization and for them to want to stay. I mean, if you're a great seller, you can sell for anybody. You don't need to stay. So to keep and attract and keep those people is about being able to make great money. It's also about being able to operate the way that you like. And so what's interesting is, to build on your example, if you have, let's just use two different titles. Let's say your less experienced salespeople you call BDRs or SDRs. Okay, sales development reps, business development reps. They're going to be less experienced. They're going to be literally younger. And I think you want to be tighter on them because they don't even know themselves yet, right? They're not 50 telling you, here's what motivates me, right? They're 25 and they're learning the job. That's perfectly developmentally appropriate because they're learning. And they're literally learning, here's who I am, here's what I like, here's what works for me. They're growing up. They're growing up inside your company. When you're talking about the major account managers, or if you're a smaller business and you only have a handful of people who have to wear all the hats, then you're going to direct by principle. And you're going to say, this is what needs to get done. And this is what each of us have to get done. And a leader as coach model takes the time to understand each person and understand how are they going to get there. And I do believe you can be looser on how many dials a day it looks and what the records in the CRM look like. Should they have to do some of that? Sure, because you need to know what's happening. But you don't have to rule with an iron fist if that person has self-determination, they're motivated, and they're self-aware or wanting to be more self-aware of what it's going to take for them to get there. They want to do their calls in the morning, let them. They want to do their calls in the afternoon, let them.
Exactly what I was going to say. Like we're all going to make our calls in the morning. I just do them better in the afternoon, right? So I'll do mine in the afternoon.
And I have to do whatever requires the most bravery and the most mental stuff for me. I have to do it before lunch.
Eat the frog.
I do. And I get energy from interactions like this later, so I can do these things later in the day, but I wouldn't write my brand new invention proposal at 4 p.m. That's not good for me. But the reason I know that is because of years of practicing and coaching and all the things I've gotten. So I have found, and this comes kind of back full circle, Corey, to this idea of like where you learn sales training and what we mean by sales training. When you're talking about the mechanics of selling, there are so many good schools of thought out there. There's so many major brands, small brands, great consultants. If you have a specialty industry and you're wondering if there is a sales consultant that just knows your industry, contact me and I'll probably be able to introduce you. I mean, I just know so many sales and marketing consultants from doing this for decades now, and there are all kinds of specialties. One of the things I've learned about myself and what you're hearing come through in this, and what I want your owners to hear, is that there's an entire way to lead that is principles driven and that is not uber specific directive. And there's a whole body of salespeople that would like to be led that way and like to have that freedom. And for those people, that's the kind of culture they're going to stay in. If you tell me every single thing about how I have to do my job and I keep performing, but you keep telling me that the way I'm doing the job needs to look just like you, I'm not going to stay. I'm going to be frustrated. Right. And there's lots of people that operate like that. And so in the realm of sales training, one of the things I've realized about myself is that I really like teaching the principles, and then I model an example of what it could look like. And then I say, try it and then make it your own. And
So
I really mean that, because if you don't love the script you put together, if you don't
right,
love the template you put together, if you don't feel great about the brand message that you're saying, you're not going to do it.
agreed. Yeah. Okay, so this is cool, and you know the difference between kind of managing by principle versus managing by process, and um, I'm a big fan of the end result management. Don't manage the process, manage the end result. And people get you the result you want. The example I always use, you know, if you have a warehouse and you say to someone, "I need you to sweep the warehouse. You have an hour." And you come back in 30 minutes and they're 75% done and it meets the standard, you take the broom out of their hand and say, no, you're doing it wrong. This is how you should do it. And you think, well, hold on. They were going to have it done way ahead of time and it met your standard. They weren't doing it wrong. They just weren't doing it the way you do it.
That's right.
And this is a big thing. I think a lot of business owners, because I mean they've been driving the boat for a long time, and they've gotten to the level of success they have because they did it the way they did it.
Well, I'll give you another example, Corey. For years, for over 15 years, I had a cold calling company. And so, I mean, I started this in 2002. And so this is when you could do emails, you could mail postcards, or you could call people on their landline and you would leave voicemails. And so those were the three ways you would do outreach. And so people would pay me to staff contract sellers at other companies. And those people would be trained to sound like and be contractors to those clients and help get meetings for them. It was a very common practice that we would stack the team with, these are well-known professional cold callers who worked through me, and we would purposely stack the team because there was so much to learn about the messaging, the market reception to this person's message. These were often fairly early stage companies where we're still figuring out, simultaneous with setting the meetings, we're figuring out what's the value proposition. Like, what are people really responding to here?
Yeah.
So we would stack the team. We would say, here's the goal. We want to book as many qualified meetings as we can. This is your financial incentive to do that, team. And here's some resources we're giving you in terms of scripts and FAQs and things like that. And then we would put people on it that were proven resources, where some like to work a list faster and do fast passes, and they're looking for low-hanging fruit, and they literally wanted a longer list of target accounts to pursue. And some worked slower and they were more deliberate, and they literally only wanted to be assigned 30 companies at a time, and they would work that 30 companies until they got a yes or no from every single person. And you know, over the years, both of those types of callers were enormously successful. But we did not allow our client to tell us which person got staffed. We said it's our job to get the meetings booked, and we would have to figure out on the backside what combination, dialing up this person's hours, dialing down this person's hours with these different work styles. What's it going to take to make this client, you know, wildly happy? And that was an early time in my entrepreneurial journey and my sales development journey, where I realized there's not just a way, and that people can be taught the big picture objectives of what we're going for, given some tools to do it, and then go make it happen. And they did.
It's interesting. I love stuff like that because it's both are right. If you're doing both, there's no wrong way if you're putting the right person.
Yeah, both and. Exactly. So okay. I think what I want your owners to look at is, I want them to just examine their own assumptions. What do I think just has to be this way? Wherever we use the word just has to be this way. What is that?
You're leading me into my final question. So I'm a business owner. I'm watching this. I'm thinking, man, that's me. I'm getting in my own way. I'm getting in the way of my people performing the way I want. You know, if I get a little dust floating around here, if I could limit my beliefs and kind of just manage by principle, I think I could get more out of my people. So other than calling you and reading your book, what is an initial first or second step a business owner could take to start moving in that direction?
Oh, that's a great question. Well, one of the things that's happened to me professionally over the last few years, Corey, is that I think there is more and more intersection between personal development and sales training. And if you look at who the trainers are, you look at who the celebrity trainers are and the biggest brands, they're people that also share this view, because personal development is professional development. I mean, if you're working on you as a person, it's going to spill into everything. And so the realm of what do you believe is true? How do you reframe unhelpful thoughts, unhelpful beliefs? How do you change your mindset? How do you reframe things? Those are personal development traits that can be brought into the sales world. So a few things you could do are you can talk to a coach. I mean, as a principal, I would talk to someone that is literally, their title is literally executive coach, or they might have gone through some kind of a certification from someone like the Coaching Institute or the International Coaching Federation. These are professionally trained coaches who can ask good questions. So I would do a discovery call with one of them. Another thing you could do is there's some great assessments. I'm married to a social scientist. I have opinions about assessments. That's for a whole nother time. But I think one of the most helpful things a person can do is to take an emotional intelligence assessment. My favorite is the EQI, the EQI 2.0. It's offered, it was created at Yale, and it measures 15 subscales about you. Getting someone to interpret to you, hey, this is how you're coming across, and this is what you need to know about yourself, is a great starting point to look at your pros and cons about how you manage people. And the debrief call, Corey, is where you realize, I've never had anyone tell me something like that about myself before. It's so helpful. It's kind of painful too, but it's so helpful if your heart and your intention is really to grow.
Right. And I think just to back that up, so business owner might be listening. I don't want to take one of those assessments and they're going to tell me how I have to change. And that's not it. Understanding how you operate allows you to better communicate that to people and read the room a little bit. No one's going to say, look, you have to be a whole different person, because that's impossible. We are who we are.
That's right.
Take those assessments and understand, oh, this is how I come across. So now you might just be able to preface and say, look, I'm not trying to critique or I'm just a direct, I always have to tell people that I'm just a direct communicator. So that's how I'm going to communicate. Because if I try to be all fluffy, I just somehow end up insulting everyone in the room. So I just got to be who I am. And I'm just going to be direct. And I just need you to know that right now. Like, it's just how I communicate.
I agree with almost everything you said. I want to bring up the point that I would argue that part of why you want to consider assessments and things like that is because actually in the pace of modern business and culture, I actually think we do all have to change. Now, I don't mean that you can fundamentally change who you are in your God-given personality. I don't mean that. I do mean that there could be significant blind spots that your whole team knows about you that you are literally unaware of.
Right.
And if you don't engage in some kind of coaching, get some kind of feedback. I mean, we've all had bosses like that. Like people talk about them when they walk away and whisper about them and laugh about them. And none of us want to be the person that's happening to. Well, the only way I know to remedy that is to be open to change and to seek that outside input.
Cool. I agree with that too. Yeah. And when I'm saying that they don't want you to fundamentally change who you are and have to be someone else, but we always do want to improve upon our weaknesses. So
you need to be a better you. Yeah. Everybody wants you to be a better you. Who doesn't want that? Doesn't your spouse want that? Don't your friends want that? Don't your kids want that? I mean, everybody wants that, right?
But to start that journey, you have to admit you're doing something wrong.
And then you need to grow. Yeah. Exactly. And that you need to grow. I'm constantly connecting people with things I read or listen to because I feel like that's one of the the easiest ways I can add value in someone else's life, but it's also because I'm grabbing onto things. I'm thinking, well, I don't want to reinvent the wheel. If this person's figured this thing out, I want to copy them. So I'm a curator of information and then pass that on, even in my sales training. It's not uncommon for me to quote another book or have everyone, have homework of listening to this podcast and say, if you really like this lesson, if it resonated with you, go listen to this. And sometimes it's mine and a lot of times it's someone else's, because there's just so many wonderful ideas out there. And I want to be around people that are wanting to get that kind of input so that they can turn around and take better care of the people in their companies.
Very cool. I think that's a great note to end on. So, Miss Brown, if people are out there listening and thinking, man, I want to learn more about this. I need to get in touch. I want to understand how to manage through Principal. I want to give my sales team the greatest probability at being successful. How can we reach you?
That's great. Thank you. The thing to do would be to go on Amazon and get a copy of How Good Humans Sell. Thank you so much.
See how cute Matt is with his little flashcards here.
Thanks, Matt. Yeah, it's on Amazon. It's done I self-published. It's done really well. It's been a great marketing tool for me. It's literally a great read too. I mean, people say they'll write to me and say, here's a piece that helped me. The reason you'd want to start with that and then contact me is because there's all different elements of the mechanics of selling, the beliefs about selling. Is it about directing people? What is it about? And then if I'm not the right person to help you, I will refer you to that right next coach or that right next consultant, because depending on your role and the size of your company, your needs are going to be different. The last thing I'll say too, Corey, is, I'm very active on LinkedIn. I outsource a lot of other things in my life, but I do my own post every day, Monday through Friday. It's about what I'm learning, what I'm reading. And it's a great place to connect because I give free training in my posts. And so find me, Catherine Brown with EXTRABOLD Sales. Find me on LinkedIn, and that's another good way to learn.
Hold on, Matt, LinkedIn. There it is. All right.
Thank you.
Very cool. Hey, thank you so much for your time today. I appreciate the conversation. So much good information. I appreciate the energy you bring and the information you bring. Thanks so much for joining us.
Thanks, Corey. Thanks for the opportunity.
Yeah, my pleasure. All right, there she is, Miss Catherine Brown from EXTRABOLD Sales. I will do this one more time for her. How Good Humans Sell. Definitely worth a read. We want to thank you for spending time with me. That concludes episode 1 of season 2 of the Key Hire Small Business Podcast. Love to thank you for tuning in. If you like the show, make sure you can connect with us on LinkedIn. Matt, you ready? Follow us on LinkedIn. We have the Key Hire Solutions page, or you can hit me personally, Corey Harlock. We have a YouTube station where we put all this content on there, so you can go back and look at all of the previous live streams we've done. Jumping, Matt, we've done how many? 30 or 40 of these. Where else can they find us, Matt? Oh, at our website, Key Hire Solutions. If you have any questions about talent planning, hiring, something's not right with your people in your business, you think you might need to hire a new role, or someone's underperforming, high performer, not so much anymore, and you want to talk through that, you can book a free consultation with us. We're happy to walk you through those challenges. We always say no sales, no weirdness, just good conversation. We're happy to do that with you. If you like, you can check out our podcast as well on any of the major providers, the Key Hire Small Business Podcast. If you like it, help us out. You can subscribe to it or follow it. If you're listening to an episode that resonates with you, give it a thumbs up, leave us a 5-star rating, throw a comment on there for others so they know about the show as well. I think that wraps it up. Thanks so much for tuning in to this live stream and show. We appreciate you guys. Until next time, stop grinding, start growing.